This review copy of Alteric was provided for free by publisher Sometimes You. In the vein of other lesser-known indie titles under the Sometimes You umbrella, Alteric doesn't really strive for much. But, surprisingly, it's actually pretty good. It's not great, but it's a game that I can wholeheartedly recommend at a lower price. The simplistic controls and presentation belie some pretty solid level design, and a few fulfilling challenges. It has its own share of problems, but not enough to ruin it. It's a decent 2D platformer through and through. Alteric has no in-game story whatsoever. The game's page on online storefronts alludes to the player character being a spirit stuck in limbo. But since there's no real story progression in the game itself, I have a hard time counting that. It's fine though, Alteric doesn't need a story and the graphics deliver the presentation just fine on its own. They're about as minimalist as you can get, but they're also sharp and contrast from each other very well. It's intuitive to discern between spikes or buzzsaws, as opposed to the safety of smooth platforms. The backgrounds are also nice to look at, and strange structures can be made out through the blur. It's not a big deal, but it does go a long way towards making the game feel a lot less empty, as does the falling rain and the blackened ash. It's unfortunate that enemy bullets are a similar color to the orange background, but it does contrast enough to be perfectly playable. The music is hardly anything special and just loops through a continuous playlist, but at least the boss battles get their own songs. The controls amount to moving along the ground, jumping, double jumping, and switching between two different dimensions. Obstacles and platforms that appear in one dimension won't be there in the other, and switching between the two is necessary to solve the game's puzzles. In a way, it's similar to Hue, but while Hue was aggravatingly slow and not fun in the slightest, Alteric moves quickly and features some challenging moments. The level design is what carries Alteric as a legitimately good game. Utilizing the double jump in tandem with switching dimensions is a lot of fun and feels natural. Later on, new features are introduced, including gravity flipping switches and the ability to create platforms, both of which help add a small layer of complexity to help keep things interesting. There are some cheap shots here and there, but checkpoints are frequent enough without being too common to prevent this from being frustrating. Bosses are simple and don't do much to utilize the game's unique mechanics, but they are fun to take down. Alteric is good, but a few issues do hamper it. While the controls are tight, the physics take getting used to. The player character feels awfully slippery, especially after just landing a jump, and controlling momentum in midair never felt right. It's manageable, but always an annoyance. This really becomes an issue in level 24, Real Challenge, and that name is definitely appropriate. This level requires multiple precise jumps and very careful drops, but the physics engine is not made for these kind of obstacles. This would feel more appropriate in Super Meat Boy, or at least as a more difficult Super Mario Bros. Level. On top of that, the checkpoint for this particular level is way off in the distance, and this course demands mastery by pulling off a perfect run of extremely specific moves. This level alone can easily take an hour to complete. The physics are a pain to deal with throughout the game, but they're never really a problem until the very end. The platform creation mechanic is also introduced very late in the game and never gets a good opportunity to get fleshed out, even during the only boss battle in which it can be used. There's also an odd cameo from the game Thomas Was Alone, which I assume was unsolicited. Worst of all, there's a bug during the final boss battle. Defeating the boss normally ends up soft-locking the game and requires the battle to be restarted. I was confused, to say the least, and had to find a workaround online. Afterwards, the credits are immediately and unceremoniously brought up. But when everything is said and done, I actually had fun with this game. There's not much to it, but it works well with what it has, and I'm okay with recommending it if it's on sale for about $2. Anything more than that is pushing it due to the lack of polish and content. And there are plenty of far better games out there to choose from, even if it's for a slightly higher price. But if you want a quick little platformer you can get through in a day, then Alteric is a halfway decent choice to consider. Thank you for watching my review on Alteric. If you would like to be updated on my future videos, then you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, or check out my page on Critic.